Here's the clip everyone debated. Phoenix runs into a wall of Dallas defense. Nurkić swings his arm in traffic and catches Marshall on the head. Marshall fires back with a punch that connects. Bodies surge. Washington arrives and shoves Nurkić to the floor. Whistles, chaos, and then the walk to the tunnel. The league's memo cuts through the noise. It names each action, then sets the price. Marshall sits 4th. Nurkić sits 3. Washington sits 1. No secret sauce, just cause and effect. The tape shows contact. The memo shows consequences. Stakes matter more than anger, and this came in a Western race where 1 week can decide your seed. Dallas suddenly loses a wing who defends at the point of attack and runs the floor. Phoenix loses its starting center in a system that needs screens, seals, and defensive size every night. Both teams feel it by the second quarter of Game 1. Let's rewind to the spark. The possession starts like 100 others, but tension rides with the pace. Nurkić bumps, angles for space, and that arm swing lands high. You can freeze it frame by frame. Marshall reacts not with a chest bump, but with a punch. Contact is loud in slow motion. Then Washington's shove turns the scrum into a spill. Referees separate, benches crane their necks, and the broadcast camera finds Kyrie Irving's stunned face. That reaction becomes a meme, but it also captures the shock. Even in a league where tempers spike, connecting with a punch crosses a bright line. Everyone knows that line. The NBA's punishment ladder is not a mystery. Physical escalation equals games. Connecting equals more games. Attempting to continue after separation pushes it higher. The memo's most telling line is about attempting to further engage away from the floor. That's not a rumor. That's written discipline language. So why the split 4 versus 3? The league judged Marshall through and landed a punch and then tried to keep it going. Nurkić initiated the contact that sparked the feud and took Marshall to the head, but he didn't throw a second strike after bodies stepped in. Washington's shove is a different class. Dangerous, but brief, so he gets a single game. Without pay is not just words. Every missed game is a missed game check. You feel it immediately, you also feel it in rotations. For Dallas, Marshall had become the quiet glue on the wing after signing a 3-year deal in the summer. He's rangy, cuts with purpose, and defends multiple spots. 4 games is a big hole when your schedule stacks 2 back-to-backs in a week. For Phoenix, Nurkić is more than a rebound counter. He's the hub that flips handoffs into downhill drives and the body that absorbs hits from rolling bigs. 3 games without him means leaning on smaller lineups or backup size that can't duplicate his screening angles or paint protection. Shot quality shifts fast when your anchor sits. Now, about the footage. Freeze at the point of contact. Nurkic's arm comes across. It's not a gentle clear, it's forceful and lands high. Marshall's punch is direct and connects. Washington's shove is two-handed and sends a 7-footer backward. You don't need slow-mo to see why the league moved quickly. Every second is a frame the office can cite. Fans argued it both ways within minutes. One camp said, Nurkić started it. The other said, Marshall escalated it. The league said both are true in part, and then it priced each one. Sports don't reward who started it. Sports punish who made it worse and who kept making it worse after whistles. That's the standard they used here. If you've watched enough NBA discipline cycles, you know the pattern. There's the on-court act, the immediate ejections, and the late-night review. Then the memo lands the next day with the language that matters. Striking the head. Throwing a punch that connected. Escalating the altercation. This memo checked every box. Let's talk pressure. The West in late December is already a standings blender. A 2-game slip can drop you from a home series to a play-in headache. Dallas is managing minutes for stars and trying to protect defensive gains. Phoenix is building rhythm around Kevin Durant's scoring gravity and spacing. Take away a starter or a core wing, and the margins shrink. There's also the personality layer. Nurkić is physical, expressive, and not afraid of hard contact. Marshall plays with an edge, fights for space, and won a contract on effort plays. That combination can turn one tough possession into a flashpoint. Tonight, it did. The camera caught it. The league stamped it. Some asked why the numbers weren't higher. Simple. Punches are punished, but the context matters. This was a burst, not a bench-clearing melee that spilled into the stands. Security contained it. Officials ejected the key players. There were no repeat blows after the pile separated. 4 and 3 games are still heavy in a regular season grind. Others asked why the numbers weren't lower. Simple again, connect to the head, and you're not getting a fine and a warning. The league protects faces and heads because that's where the worst injuries live. They also penalize anything that suggests the fight continued beyond the floor. That's where attempted to further engage matters. Now, the mid-video reveal that explains the split. Buried in the memo language is that attempt to continue the confrontation beyond the playing area. That's the line that pushes a 2 or 3 game hit into 4 for Marshall. It's not a rumor, not a clip guess. It's in the official phrasing, and the office uses that phrase rarely but deliberately. Financially, suspensions trigger no pay, and no pay means no stat lines saved by a bank account. Players feel it, teams feel it, and agents circle it the next time narratives about toughness chase a client. You can't brand a punch as leadership. The memo becomes part of a player's file, and that file shows up when the next gray call needs league context. From a coaching standpoint, you swap in the next man up and try to keep your identity. Dallas turns to a smaller wing for extra minutes and hopes to hold rebound margins by guard gang rebounding. Phoenix leans into spaced pick and roll with a backup big and asks guards to tag hard to protect the rim. Both staffs burn extra film hours. The officiating piece matters too. After a night like this, the next meeting between these teams gets a tighter whistle early. The first hard screen will draw a warning. The first chest bump becomes a double tech. The league wants the message clear before the jump ball. Compete, don't combust. There's a human angle the clip never shows. Once you're in the tunnel, the adrenaline fades and the reality sets in. Suspended means you're not with the team on game day, not on the bench, not in the huddle. That isolation stings professionals who live on routine. It's a consequence built to change behavior, not just balance a ledger. What about the who started it debate? It's not the decisive question, and the league doesn't treat it that way. They map a timeline: initial contact, escalation, continuation. Nurkić sparked it with contact to the head. Marshall escalated by throwing and landing a punch. Washington continued by shoving a player to the floor. 3 acts, 3 punishments. If you want to know how much this matters to seeding, remember how thin West margins get after the All-Star break. 1 extra loss can swing home court. 1 extra game without your starting center can change a defensive scheme. 1 extra game without your best point of attack wing can change an opponent's shot diet. That's real leverage. Does the league ever get this wrong? The debate never ends. But the template here tracks other calls. Draymond Green's history brought heavier numbers in prior years because of repeat behavior. This case carried no long prior file for Marshall and a different profile for Nurkić. Without a long sheet, the office stayed in the 3 to 4 band. Teams will say the right things in the presser. We can't let it happen. We have to keep our cool. Next man up. That's not just PR, it's survival in a league where 2 minutes of emotion can cost 11 days of rotation scrambling. Coaches beg veterans to be the lid on the pot, not the spark that blows it open. So, what's next once the games are served? You watch the rematch. You watch the first foul and the first screen. You watch whether the league assigns a veteran crew and how fast that crew sets tone. You also watch for early timeouts if energy spikes. Smart coaches call one at the first sign of smoke. For Dallas, the bigger picture is keeping their wing defense intact when the calendar turns and the schedule gets mean. For Phoenix, it's protecting the paint numbers without their starting 5. Both teams are chasing April, not one night in December, but the loss of rhythm for a week can echo a month later when you stack fatigue. Fans want a clean verdict, and here it is. The NBA got the order right by its own ladder. Initiation, escalation, continuation, 3 steps, 3 numbers. If you think the split should have been heavier for head contact, the counter is the punch connected and the memo's further engaged language. If you think it should have been lighter, the video sees otherwise. My forecast is simple. The next time these two meet, the first 2 minutes will be the calmest of the night. The league won't let it breathe. After that, it becomes basketball again, and the better team in the half court will win. The suspensions end, but the lesson hangs over both rosters. In a tight West, self-control is a competitive skill. Here's your watch list. Track defensive rating for Phoenix without Nurkić. Track Dallas's opponent 3-point attempts without Marshall's point of attack minutes. Track whether Washington's one game becomes a footnote or a whisper that he needs to temper heat. If those numbers stabilize, both teams skate. If they wobble, 1 week changed a spring. In the end, the memo didn't just punish, it set the playoff chessboard a few small moves in advance. 4 games here, 3 there, 1 in between. Minutes move, roles stretch. Coaches trust different combinations. That is how a single altercation in December can echo in April. That is why discipline matters. So, the headline stands. The NBA suspended Naji Marshall for 4 games and Jusuf Nurkić for 3 after an on-court altercation that showed a head strike, a landed punch, and a shove that sent a 7-footer down. The tape is clear. The memo is clearer. The West stays brutal, and everyone learns the same lesson again. Don't let emotion beat the schedule. And if you want the simplest summary for the barbershop or the group chat, use this. Nurkić started the fire. Marshall poured gasoline. Washington threw a log. The league grabbed the hose, counted the smoke, and billed each one by the damage. 4, 3, 1. Now back to basketball.